Hey, Ryan, I wanted to get you this KPI document that we talked about earlier today. I went ahead and put your monthly and annual numbers in. So normally I would do this on a call, but I thought we just talked today. So I figured I would just shoot this over to you with a little bit of commentary. And, we can talk about it. If you want to talk later this week, we can, or, you can at least look at this. And again, this will be something we can go through every month to help you out. So I put all your monthly and yearly numbers in. So I'm just going to kind of go through and the financials. They always tell a story, and so you'll notice there's a lot of red in here, a lot of things that are not hitting the benchmarks, but there are probably some reasons for that, and that's a big part of one of the benefits of talking through the financials is to look at just what that story that it's telling, identify opportunities is really kind of the main thing I'm looking for. And then to be able to just answer questions that may justify why a number looks the way it looks, or maybe something's a surprise to you. So in that case, then it gives you some insight, and then from that you can manage. It's another benefit. I know you'd mentioned getting the financials, kind of early as you can in the month, to be able to get the information timely so that you can maybe make short-term decisions and things of that nature. So anyway, first thing I'm looking at here is it's got revenues. There's a lot of calculations behind the scenes based on your variable costs, cost of goods sold, and fixed costs to come up with a break-even point. So here it looks like in the month of July you had about $208,000 in revenue, and based on all the fixed and variable costs, the break-even for that month for you was $196,450. So this just shows a percentage of where you were at relative to from sales to break-even. So what this is saying is you did more sales than your break even, and break even was 95% of what your actual sales were for the month. When we look at year to date, you're quite a bit more ahead of break even, where your break even for the year so far is about 1.3 million and your sales are about 1.7. So break even is only 78% of your sales. So that's a good sign that profitability is trending upward overall. Obviously, when you look at a month, there can be some things that happen during the month that aren't typical that can really skew the numbers. That's why I think with any kind of ratio analysis or looking at these financials, looking at them over time is great because you can identify trends, which is the key thing. Are you trending upward, downward? What's going on? Then looking at cost of goods sold. So in auto, for looking at that for the month, that was well under our benchmark. So anyway, in column D, these are just sort of general benchmarks. I think as we get our new software and we get more people on QuickBooks and QVinci, we'll be able to maybe have more accurate benchmarks. But these are good things to shoot for. And for the month, it looks like your auto glass expenses were pretty low as far as purchases go relative to sales. Whereas when you look at it for the year, they look pretty high. So, this could be, there may be different reasons for that. And could be the cost you're paying for materials. It could be if there was, more breakage than normal, things like that. I don't know. There may be some reasons for it, but that's one of those things to kind of observe as we move forward. Are there ways that we can keep that down? Could also be pricing. Could be another thing as well. Sometimes there's different. Again, the financials will tell a story, and as we talk through it, there will be answers revealed. So anyway, that's one of those things to look for, because it looks like there could be some opportunity to reduce the cost or look at the pricing to make that number a little bit more in line for the year. Under flat glass for the month, it looks like we were a bit over the 25% benchmark, as well as for the year. The year looks a little better, a little bit closer to the benchmark than the month. And some of that can be the timing of when you're buying materials. Sometimes if you buy additional materials in a month, that can kind of skew the numbers for that month, and they often will correct the following month. So your total cost of goods sold is around 33%. So that's about almost 5 points above kind of the benchmark. So that would be one thing for us to think about, is what are some opportunities in managing the cost in these areas that could help, particularly with auto. It looks like that's really having a big effect there, which then in turn affects our gross profit, which is the amount of money we have left over to cover, in our example, labor and then other fixed expenses. So what oftentimes happens is, and this is probably pretty clear, but if you have kind of a hit to your numbers, up at the near the top of the P&L, it kind of cascades down through. So it's not uncommon that we would see a lot of red numbers here below the benchmarks. Looking at labor, so the benchmark for auto, and the way this is calculated is looking at the labor expense divided by labor for auto, this 10,838 divided by the sales in auto. So it's all relative to those two segments of business as far as percentages go. So when we look at the labor, we can see the benchmark is about 16 and the labor for auto is 49 for the month and about 42 for the year. So that looks really high. So that could mean, is there lots of overtime? Is it taking longer than we estimated to sell it? Like we've sold the job with the idea that it's going to take a certain amount of time and it takes a lot longer. Are there efficiency issues, things of that nature? And then again, pricing can play a role in these things too. If things aren't priced just right, that can have an effect as well. So again, I don't know the answer, but those are just some of the things that I would be asking to say, what is making this high? So whereas with flat, notice that the labor numbers are pretty, below the benchmark. So, what I'm looking at so far tells me there's maybe some opportunity in auto that's probably the main area to tackle in your improving your P&L. Then there's administrative labor. Some of these numbers are above our benchmarks, but I think it's always good to pay yourself. So I don't worry as much about these numbers. So yes, these are higher. In my initial thought here is I'd be focused a lot more on how do I influence the cost in auto especially. And then it's got operating expenses, sales and marketing, and then general administrative expenses. So that's a little bit high. And then as you can see for the month, there was a small loss. And then for the year, you've got about 8.6% in net profit. So, we shoot for 10 and that's, kind of what we go for, but you're in pretty good shape when you look at the year. So anyway, that's just a high level on this. And again, this is the kind of thing that we'll talk through and can make for some good discussion. I am available this week. If you want to go through it and talk, just let me know. We can schedule time. But like I said, since we just talked today, I didn't want to wait till, next month to go over this stuff. So I thought I'd at least get this out to you. I'll send this over. And then again, if you got questions, just let me know.